Do you really think love is enough for an avoidant? You can love them purely, endlessly, selflessly. You can hold space, stay patient through silence, forgive their distance, and still they'll pull away. Not because you said the wrong thing or didn't give enough, but because what avoidants crave goes deeper, darker, and far more hidden than love itself. You see, for an avoidant, love feels unpredictable. It reminds them of the chaos they once felt, the kind of love that came with conditions, control, or emotional pain. So when you give them love freely, their mind doesn't translate it as comfort, it translates it as danger. A super empath, on the other hand, gives love like oxygen, believing that enough patience, enough softness, will heal the wounds inside the avoidant. But the truth is, avoidants don't feel safe in love. They crave something different, something their nervous system has mistaken for safety, control, certainty, emotional distance, and quiet power. These are the four emotional experiences that feed their sense of survival. They don't crave love, they crave equilibrium. Because love, for them, threatens the walls that keep their pain contained. And here's the tragic twist: the more love you give, the more trapped they feel, not by you, but by the intimacy they never learned to survive. Until you understand what those four needs are, you'll keep pouring love into someone who's wired to run from it. Let's start with the first one. So if this message speaks to you, stay till the end, because next I'll be creating a video for the super empaths, revealing the things they secretly crave more than love itself. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback helps me shape the next story we explore together. Independence, not just freedom but the illusion of it. Avoidants don't just crave freedom, they crave the illusion of freedom, because deep down, freedom isn't about space, it's about safety. You see, when an avoidant says, "I just need time," or "I'm better alone," it's rarely about you. It's about the emotional memories wired into their nervous system, memories of being trapped in chaos, guilt, or expectations they never agreed to. Somewhere in their past, love started to feel like a cage, a place where they had to shrink themselves just to keep someone else happy. So now even healthy love feels suffocating. The closer you get, the more their mind whispers, "You're losing control." That's why they run, not because they don't care, but because needing someone feels like danger. Dependence to them equals pain. But here's the paradox: they don't actually want to be alone, they want connection, but on their terms. They want to know they can come and go, feel and unfeel, without losing their sense of self, so they build walls, not to shut love out, but to control how close it gets. And when a super empath enters their life, someone who loves deeply, consistently, someone who says, "You're safe with me," the avoidant starts to panic, because that kind of safety feels foreign. It threatens the illusion they've built, the illusion that they don't need anyone. So they'll create distance, they'll pull back, not to test your love, but to test if they can still breathe without it. For the avoidant, independence isn't about solitude, it's about emotional survival. It's their way of saying, "I can't afford to lose myself again." But what they don't realize is, true independence isn't the absence of love, it's the ability to feel free within love. Until they learn that, they'll keep chasing isolation and calling it peace, not knowing it's loneliness wearing a mask. Emotional control, the power to decide when, how, and how much to feel. For the avoidant, control isn't just a preference, it's protection. They learned long ago that emotions are dangerous, that expressing too much, needing too much, or feeling too deeply can be used against them. So now they guard their emotions the way others guard secrets. They won't let you see them lose balance, because in their world, vulnerability equals exposure. You might notice it, how calm they look when you're falling apart, how distant they become when the moment turns emotional. They'll change the subject, laugh it off, or disappear into silence. It's not coldness, it's fear, a fear of losing control over something they never learned to manage. When love gets too intense, they don't think, "This feels good," they think, "This feels dangerous," because love demands surrender, and surrender feels like giving someone else the power to hurt them. So they build invisible rules. Don't text too much, don't talk about the past, don't ask what I'm feeling. Each rule is a way to keep the emotional temperature low, so they can breathe without drowning. And here's where the super empath struggles most, because an empath feels connection through openness, through emotional sharing. When the avoidant shuts down, the empath tries harder. They talk softer, love deeper, reach further. But the more you chase emotional closeness, the more the avoidant retreats, not because they don't care, but because they feel like they're losing control of their own heart. To them, control equals safety, even if it costs them connection, even if it leaves them alone, because losing someone hurts, but losing control hurts worse. Here's the painful irony: what they call emotional control is actually emotional fear, disguised as discipline. They think they're protecting themselves from pain, but what they're really doing is numbing themselves from love. Until an avoidant learns that control and vulnerability can coexist, that expressing emotion doesn't mean surrendering power, they'll keep holding love with trembling hands, afraid that feeling too much might make them lose everything. Validation without vulnerability, being seen without being exposed. Avoidants crave validation, but not the kind that asks them to open up. They want to be seen, not studied, understood, not analyzed. It's subtle. They'll let you admire their strength, their intelligence, their calm, but the moment you try to touch the why behind those traits, they shut down, because being understood too deeply feels like being unmasked. You see, for an avoidant, validation is oxygen, but vulnerability feels like suffocation. They want to feel appreciated for who they appear to be, not for the wounds that shaped them, so they build a version of themselves, composed, capable, untouchable. It's their armor. And when someone, especially a super empath, tries to love the real, unguarded version underneath, the avoidant panics, because deep love threatens the illusion. It exposes the cracks they've spent a lifetime hiding, and to them, exposure feels like weakness. So they crave validation that feels safe, a compliment without curiosity, a connection without confrontation. They want to hear, "You're amazing," but not, "Why do you hide your pain?" And this creates a painful cycle. The super empath, who loves with emotional transparency, keeps trying to reach deeper, to pull the avoidant into intimacy, to show them it's safe to be real. But the deeper you reach, the faster they disappear, because they don't want to be fixed. They want to be admired without being examined. To them, love feels safer at a distance, where they can control what you see and hide what they fear. But here's the heartbreaking truth, that distance eventually turns into loneliness. Because no matter how strong they appear, no matter how composed they act, they still ache for someone who can see through the mask and stay. Validation without vulnerability might protect their ego, but it starves their soul, because real love doesn't just see your strength, it sees your scars and stays anyway. And until the avoidant allows that kind of seeing, they'll keep performing for connection instead of feeling it. Safe attachment. Love that doesn't demand pressure or suffocate. At the core of every avoidant lies one silent longing to feel safe in love. Not thrilled, not overwhelmed, just safe, because to the avoidant, love has never felt safe. It has always come with pressure, to open up faster, to connect deeper, to give more. And every time they tried, someone crossed a line, ignored a boundary, or made them feel like their pace wasn't enough. So they learned to protect themselves through distance. They built invisible walls, not because they hate love, but because they fear what love demands. See, for a super empath, connection feels natural. You crave closeness, emotional intimacy, transparency. But for an avoidant, those same things feel like losing air, because closeness reminds them of being trapped, of being emotionally responsible for someone else's feelings, of having to give parts of themselves they were never allowed to protect. So when you ask for more words, more reassurance, more presence, they don't hear your need. They hear pressure. They hear, "You're failing again." That's why they retreat, not because they've stopped caring, but because they need to reset their sense of safety. To them, love should feel like quiet peace, not chaos disguised as passion. They crave a connection that respects their space, that says, "I'm here but I'm not chasing." They need to know they can step back without being punished, and return without being shamed. Safe attachment for them isn't about constant contact. It's about emotional predictability, knowing the bond won't collapse just because they need to breathe. And here's the beautiful irony: when an avoidant finally feels that kind of safety, their walls begin to lower on their own. They start to open, to trust, to stay. Because what they feared all along wasn't love itself, it was losing themselves inside it. When love stops demanding and starts understanding, the avoidant stops running, Because for the first time they realize that true safety isn't found in isolation, it's found in love that lets them be free. If you truly care for an avoidant, don't chase their silence, respect it. Don't try to break their walls, show them they're safe without forcing them down, because healing doesn't happen through pressure, it happens through peace. Start by learning emotional boundaries, not to distance yourself, but to remind both of you that love and freedom can coexist. Give them room to breathe, but never shrink yourself to fit their comfort. Your patience should not come at the cost of your self-worth. When they withdraw, stay grounded. When they speak, listen, without fixing. When they come close, be present, without fear. Because the more secure you become, the safer they'll feel around you. And remember, you're not here to heal their past. You're here to model what healthy love looks like in the present. A love that's calm, consistent and unconditional, but still respects itself. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer an avoidant is quiet understanding, not to save them but to show them that real connection doesn't threaten independence, it deepens it. Love them gently, hold yourself firmly, and let time reveal whether they're ready to meet you in the middle, not out of fear, but out of choice.